Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session. Let us review today some stories and details pertaining to Siddhartha's process right before and after his awakening and how he set in motion the wheel of Dhamma. In the stories, we find wholesome and skillful qualities that are supportive and beneficial to cultivate and develop our spiritual path. As we mentioned in our last session, after leaving his 5 ascetic friends, Siddhartha continued his journey on his own, wandering further until reaching a beautiful spot along the riverbank, where he found a secluded and shaded area beneath a tree. This tree will later be revered as the Bodhi tree, the tree of enlightenment. The story says that he prepared a seat of grass to sit down and continue his practice. And then he made a vow with resolution and determination, stating, "Let my flesh deteriorate and rot until reduced to mere bones and skin, but I will not move from this seat. I will not unlock my legs until I attain supreme enlightenment and discover the path to liberation." As dusk settled, an intense internal struggle unfolded within him. It was a battle against all defilements, attachments, ignorance, and afflictions that had been dormant within his mind. In the text, the struggle is portrayed allegorically as a battle with Mara. Mara is the personification of all desire and attachment, the tempter, and the embodiment of evil. When the bodhisattva in a sitting position begins to concentrate his mind, Mara becomes aware of this, and in fear for what it might occur, Siddhartha's awakening, he then assembles his armies and hordes of demons and approaches the bodhisattva who is seated beneath the tree. Everything Mara wanted to do was to prevent the bodhisattva from achieving enlightenment. The first thing Mara does is to tempt him in different ways to accomplish his goal, offering him honor, power, and fame, as well as sovereignty over the entire world. Mara appeals to the bodhisattva's love for family life, his wife, parents, and children, with the hope that Siddhartha will give in and abandon his search. But this doesn't work. Siddhartha does not fall into Mara's trap. He doesn't accept these offerings. In his second attempt, Mara tries to instill fear through thunder and lightning, throwing weapons at him and displaying numerous horrifying forms. But this doesn't frighten the bodhisattva, for his heart remains still. Mara further seeks to seduce the bodhisattva through the allure of the senses, sending his daughters to induce delight, attachment, and pleasure. And these seductive daughters of Mara were sent to ensnare the bodhisattva and lead him astray into the path of sensual pleasure. But despite these attempts, the bodhisattva remains steadfast and unmoved. Finally, Mara challenges his very right to be seated beneath the Bodhi tree. He asks, "What right do you have to occupy this position? This does not belong to you, it belongs to me." Mara then turns to his entire army of demons and declares, "Isn't that correct?" And all the demons affirm that it is indeed correct that the bodhisattva has to get up and leave. And Mara continues asking, "Who can attest to your right to remain here?" In this situation, the bodhisattva stands alone, and all the deities who had been observing and witnessing the struggle and battle between Mara and the bodhisattva, they all flee, terrified by the forces of Mara. But the bodhisattva remains still and then extends his hand and touches the ground, proclaiming, "The earth shall serve as my witness." Perhaps many have seen the statue of the Buddha with his right hand touching the ground. This is a statue embodying the earth witnessing posture. The Bodhisattva addresses the earth, seeking its witness to his own fulfillment of all the paramis, the perfections. And when the Bodhisattva calls upon the earth to witness, the earth trembles, quakes, and responds with an applause affirming, "He has indeed fulfilled all the paramis and achieved perfection." And this brings terror to the hosts of Mara, causing them to flee. And then Mara recognizes his defeat and departs. After these events, the Bodhisattva enters into profound states of meditation, the four jhanas, during which his mind achieves unparalleled calm and stillness. And with this mental clarity, the profound realizations of wisdom begin to unfold in him. As we shared in the last session, Siddhartha gains three knowledges that lead him to his awakening, taking place over the 3 watches of the night, respectively. With the first knowledge, he recollects all his past lives. With the second knowledge, he sees with the divine eye the passing away and reappearance of beings according to their actions. And with the third knowledge, he destroys the taint of sensual desire, the taint of becoming, and the taint of ignorance, thus accomplishing his goal and arising in the world as a Samma Sambuddha, a perfectly enlightened one. Then it is said that the Buddha uttered some verses after his awakening, and they are referred as the Song of Victory. Through countless births in the cycle of existence, samsara, I have wandered in vain, seeking, although not finding, the builder of this house, seeing how painful and sorrowful is to be born again and again. Repeated birth is indeed suffering. O house builder, now you are seen. You shall not build a house again for me. Your rafters are broken, and your ridgepole shattered. The mind has reached the unconditioned. The end of craving has been attained. The house represents existence in samsara, the house builder craving, the rafters, the passions, and the ridgepole, ignorance. For several weeks, the Tathagata remained in the vicinity of the Bodhi tree, contemplating the truth that he had discovered. Tathagata is another way to address the Buddha, the perfect one, literally the one who has thus gone or thus come, is an epithet of the Buddha used by him when speaking of himself. Subsequent to this, the Buddha faces a new challenge, whether to go out and try to teach the Dhamma, or whether to remain silent and stay in the forest. At first, he reflected that this Dhamma that he had attained is profound, hard to see, hard to understand. It is peaceful and sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, subtle to be experienced by the wise. But people in this generation delights in attachment, takes delight in attachment, they rejoice in attachment. It is hard for such people to see this truth, the law of conditionality, dependent arising, and it is hard to see this truth, the stealing of all formations, the relinquishing of all acquisitions, the destruction of craving, dispassion and cessation, nibbana. If I were to teach the Dhamma, others will not understand me, and that will be exhausting and troublesome for me. Considering this, he inclined to inaction rather than to teaching the Dhamma. But then his heart inclined in the other direction, considering to teach the Dhamma to the world. And this change in his inclination is again illustrated allegorically in the text. It is said that when the Buddha decided not to teach, the Brahma Sahampati, this is a divinity who rules over one of the high heavenly worlds. So he sees the Buddha's intention not to teach and considered, the world will be lost, since the mind of the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened, inclines to inaction rather than to teaching the Dhamma. It is said that the Brahma Sahampati comes down from the heavenly world and appears before the Buddha for all sentient beings in the world. And he urges the Buddha to go forth and teach out of compassion for the sentient beings. And he addresses the Buddha in verses, "In Magadha there have arisen impure teachings taught by those who are still stained. Open the doors to the deathless. Let them hear the Dhamma that the stainless one has found. Just as one who stands on a mountain peak can see below the people all around, so, O wise one, all-seeing sage, ascend the palace of the Dhamma. Let the sorrowless one survey the human breed, engulfed in sorrow, overcome by birth and old age. Arise, victorious hero, caravan leader, deathless one, and wander in the world. Let the Blessed One teach the Dhamma. There will be those who will understand." Then the Tathagata, upon hearing the Brahma's request, and out of compassion for beings, he surveys the world with the eye of a Buddha, and he sees beings with little dust in their eyes and with much dust in their eyes, with keen faculties and with dull faculties, with good qualities and with bad qualities, those that are easy to teach and those that are hard to teach, and some who dwelt sin, fear, and blame in the world. And the Buddha describes this with a beautiful metaphor. He says, imagine a pond with white, red, or blue lotuses. Some of these flowers, when they grow, they remain under the water. They are not able to arise. They remain there. Some other lotuses are able to grow and reach the surface of the water. And other lotuses, when they grow, they are able to go all the way out to the surface and just remain in the open, and they are not wetted anymore. So like this, he was able to see different kinds of beings at different states, some under the water, some at the surface, and some that were able to be more open and receptive. Then the intention to teach the Dhamma arises in the Buddha's heart and consents to the Brahma's request. And he replies to the Brahma Sahampati in stanzas, "Open for them are the doors to the deathless. Let those with ears now show their faith." Once this happens, the Buddha considered, to whom should I first teach the Dhamma? Who will understand it quickly? And right away, he is able to remember his former teachers, understanding that they had little dust in their eyes, and they will understand and realize the Dhamma just upon hearing it. But unfortunately, Alara Kalama had died a week before, and Udaka Ramaputta passed away the night before. So the Buddha felt that it was a great loss that his former teachers had passed away without hearing the Dhamma from him. Then he thought of his 5 ascetic friends, since they have been very helpful and supportive during Siddhartha's austere practices, and he considered teaching them the Dhamma. At that time, the group of 5 ascetics were living in Benares, Varanasi, in the deer park at Isipatana, what today is Sarnath. So the Buddha, being at Uruvela, what today is Bodh Gaya, he decided to go to them. On his way, the Buddha encounters an ascetic called Upaka, and upon seeing the Buddha, becomes very impressed by the Buddha's faculties. So he asks, "Under whom have you come forth, friend? Who is your teacher? Whose Dhamma do you profess?" Then the Buddha replies by stating his attainment without any reservation. He tells him, "I am one who has transcended all, a knower of all, unsullied among all things, renouncing all, freed from craving. Having known this for myself, to whom should I point as my teacher? I have no teacher, and no one like me exists in the world, because I have no person for my counterpart. I am the accomplished one in the world. I am the teacher supreme. I alone am a fully enlightened one whose fires are quenched and extinguished. I go now to the city of Kasi to set in motion the wheel of Dhamma. In a world that has become blind, I go to beat the drum of the deathless." So the ascetic Upaka tells the Buddha, "You must be a universal victor." And the Buddha assents and he says, "Yes, indeed, I am a victor." And after this, the ascetic Upaka says, "It may be so," and he just walked away. So in his first encounter with an ascetic, the Buddha is not able to teach the Dhamma, despite declaring or despite Upaka recognizing the faculties and qualities of a Buddha, but he decides to ignore him and just walk away. Then the Buddha continues his journey to the deer park, where the 5 ascetics were abiding. As he approaches, they see him coming, and they make a collective decision not to get up and greet him, to just treat him casually without any special honors or respect, because they all agree that Siddhartha had abandoned his striving, his austere practices, and reverted to a life of luxury. But as the Buddha approaches, they cannot maintain their agreement. The demeanor of the Buddha, his figure is so majestic, with pure faculties, his expression so serene, that they were unable to keep their pact. So one of the ascetics comes to him and takes his bowl, and the other one comes and takes his robe, and another one prepares a seat for the Buddha to sit, and another one prepares some water to wash his feet. And despite all this, they still address him as friend. And then the Buddha sits them straight and tells them, "Do not address the Tathagata as friend. The Tathagata is an accomplished one, a fully enlightened one. Listen. The deathless has been attained. I shall instruct you. I shall teach you the Dhamma, practicing as you are instructed, by realizing for yourselves, here and now, through direct knowledge, you will soon enter upon and abide in that supreme goal of the holy life for which you have rightly gone forth from the home life into homelessness." But they didn't comply and did not believe the Buddha. They were reluctant. They still refer to him as friend and tell him, "If you, friend, did not attain any higher states of knowledge and vision when you were practicing austerities, how can you now declare that you did so, since you are living luxuriously and have abandoned your striving?" So then the Buddha tells them the Tathagata doesn't live luxuriously or give up his striving. He's an accomplished one, a fully enlightened one, urging them to listen to him, to let him instruct them, and through that instruction they could experience the Dhamma. So they go back and forth for 3 times, and the Buddha continues to reply to them, urging them to listen to him, until there comes a point in which the Buddha says, "Have you ever heard me speak like this before? Have I ever declared this before?" So they, of course, say no. "So then please listen to what I have to say." At that moment, they believe that he's not lying, that he's not resorting in lies, trying to trick them. So then, at that moment, they are able to listen to the Buddha. So after the 5 ascetics decide to listen to the Buddha, he gives them the first discourse, the first instruction, which is a very iconic moment in the world because it marks a point in which the Buddha sets in motion the wheel of Dhamma. In Pali, it is called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the discourse on setting in motion the wheel of Dhamma. When the Buddha is assembled with the 5 ascetics, he begins to deliver the Dhamma, sharing that there are 2 extremes that should be avoided. What 2? On one hand, there is the pursuit of sensual pleasures, which is low, vulgar, the way of the worldlings. It is the indulgence and luxury. It is ignoble and unbeneficial. And on the other hand, there is the pursuit of self-mortification, which is painful, ignoble, and unbeneficial. And then he says, between these 2 extremes, there is a way that is the middle way that does not go to the extreme of the pleasures and does not go into the extreme of self-mortification and pain. And the Tathagata has awakened to this middle way that does not fall in either of these extremes. The path which gives rise to vision, knowledge that leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana. The Buddha describes that the middle way that leads to Nibbana is this noble eightfold path, which is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This is that middle way awakened by the Tathagata that gives vision, knowledge, that leads to peace, that brings about direct knowledge, leading to enlightenment, Nibbana. Then the Buddha gives the presentation of the 4 noble truths, which are the core, the heart of the Buddha's teachings. And he declares, this is the noble truth of suffering, which is birth, aging, sickness, death are suffering. The union with what is unpleasant is suffering. The separation from what is pleasant is suffering. Not to get what one desires is suffering. The 5 aggregates subject to clinging are suffering. This is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. It is this craving that leads to renewal of existence, that is accompanied by delight, lust, seeking delight here and there, that is craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, craving for annihilation. This is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. It is the remainderless fading away, the complete cessation of that same craving, the giving up and relinquishing of it, the freedom from it. And this is the noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. And this is the middle way that he stated before, the Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddha shares that he awakens to these Four Noble Truths. And along with this, he states that there are three phases to these Four Noble Truths. The first one is the simple knowledge of the truths themselves. The Noble Truths are present, they are a reality whether we like them or not, whether we see them or not, whether we understand them or not, whether we know them or not. The second phase is the task to be accomplished in regards to each truth. And the third phase is the accomplishment of that task regarding to each truth. So what it means is that with regard to the first noble truth of suffering, the Buddha states, it is present, it is here and now, we suffer. And this first noble truth of suffering has to be fully understood. The second noble truth of the origin of suffering has to be abandoned. The third noble truth of the cessation of suffering has to be experienced. And the fourth noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering has to be developed. So the Buddha, regarding this, he said that he didn't declare or proclaim that he was awakened so long as these four truths were fully accomplished. And in the last phase, the Buddha says that the first noble truth of suffering has been understood, fully understood by me. The second noble truth of the origin of suffering has been completely abandoned. The third noble truth of the cessation of suffering has been experienced. And the fourth noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering has been developed. He said that so long as his knowledge and vision of these four truths in the three phases and 12 aspects was not thoroughly purified in regards to the understanding of the first one, in the abandonment of the second, in the experience of the third, and the development of the fourth, he did not proclaim to have attained his full enlightenment. As the Buddha concludes his first discourse in sharing the Dhamma with the five ascetics, one of them, Venerable Kondanya, realizes the Dhamma in his heart, is able to understand the Dhamma in his heart. He is able to awaken to this Dhamma, and he accesses the first stage of enlightenment. He understood that whatever is subject to arising is all subject to cessation. And the Buddha praises him by saying that he has indeed understood the Dhamma, he has indeed understood it. So this is how the wheel of Dhamma is being set in motion. Once the Buddha realizes for himself, and now out of great compassion for the world, for all sentient beings, he comes back to the world. Instead of secluding himself in the forest, he goes back to the trouble to teach the Dhamma. And after considering to teach to his former teachers that had recently passed away, and now coming to his five friends and be able to offer the Dhamma, he is able to teach, he's able to share, and when they receive this Dhamma, they also realize it within themselves. They realize it in their hearts. That is what is called the setting in motion of the wheel of Dhamma. And then it is said that once this Dhamma is being set in motion, Nothing in the world can stop it. It will continue to roll. It will continue to spread. It will continue to flow to all the hearts of sentient beings that are in pursuit to this path to liberation. And as we shared in previous sessions, the Buddha is able to find this path, to realize this Dhamma, to walk this Noble Eightfold Path with those 8 elements that help us develop and cultivate in the noble life, in the holy life, to continue to observe whatever defilements, whatever impurities we carry, whatever unwholesome and unskillful actions of body, speech, and mind that we perform. This Noble Eightfold Path and the knowledge of the Four Noble Truths continue to help us to purify, to continue to develop and cultivate in virtue, in concentration, and in wisdom. Thanks to the Buddha's decision to come back to the world, today we are able to hear the Dhamma, we are able to receive it, and we have the gift, the opportunity for us to develop and cultivate it in our hearts. The task and the process can be arduous, can be difficult, can be challenging. But as I mentioned before, when we face our own challenges, difficulties, the ups and downs of daily life, when we relate ourselves or when we hear the story of the Buddha, what he did, what he had to go through in his experiences, and also when he faced the challenges, it can give us this deep inspiration. It can give rise to the determination, motivation, and our conviction, but also to develop faith and trust, not only in the Buddha himself, but also in the process, in how it worked. It worked for him and it worked for many others. And if we apply the simple instructions, the suggestions, if we follow the guidance, we see how here and now, almost immediately, we can experience the benefits of practicing this Dhamma. So every time I review the story of the Buddha, like in today's sharing, we are reviewing what happened to him after he became enlightened, this boundless compassion, when he decided to teach, to come back and offer this water for those that are thirsty, that are dehydrated, that wish to drink the water of Dhamma. It gives not only faith, inspiration, but reaffirms the intention to walk this path. It brightens the light in the heart, wishing to continue to do this, to try for ourselves, and to realize that this is not just a story, it's not a fable, it is not something that cannot be experienced. Quite the contrary, it can be very tangible, relatable, experiential. The path, the Dhamma, not only is pragmatic, but also is empirical. It can be applied in practice, and it can be experienced here and now. So as we mentioned before, Once again, the encouragement is to support everybody's intention to continue to walk on this path, to give rise to faith, trust in yourself by recognizing the truth of suffering that we experience every day, and also to know that there is a way out, there is a way to work with it. It is not to be pessimistic. The problems are there, suffering is there, and yet there is a way out. There is a way to work with it, not around it, to work with it, to welcome it, to develop insight in the nature of reality of this very suffering that we experience. But at the same time, to develop and cultivate the spiritual qualities that continue to help us purify in body, speech, and mind, and to give rise to the knowledge, the vision, the wisdom in the heart that is able to penetrate, that is able to open and to clear the skies of clouds, and to help us rise above from any problem, any challenge, any suffering that we experience. With this, I would like to finish our session today and kindly invite everyone to pay homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One, who fully attained perfect enlightenment, to pay homage to the Dhamma, the teachings which he well expounded, and paying homage to the Sangha, community of monastics that continue to practice well and share the Dhamma with the world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I wish you all a good day, and we see each other in the next session.